It's always good to be with you guys, you know. And then I said, get your finger out of there. And then she said, we are here. We are here. Welcome. It's your boy, the coach, to the Coach's Huddle, where the field meets family. And don't look now, but we got a 4-man front off-season edition because the Niners ain't doing anything. We're sitting at home watching the rest of the football world see who's going to be a real champion. And the rest of us are complaining on Twitter about who's better than Brock Purdy. But I digress. Grant, Ryan, Jesse, welcome. How are you guys doing today? Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves. Nobody's watching. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Go ahead, man. Anything. How are you guys feeling today, man?
Good. Splendid.
Not all at once.
Splendid. That's how I'm doing, Coach.
Definitely. Why are you feeling splendid, Ryan, before we get into the show? I'm putting you on the spot. Why?
You really want to? I feel free, man. I get to do a 4-man front with you guys, which I love. I get to do the Grand Show on Monday, which I love, and that's all the 49ers content I'm doing moving forward. I'm doing different stuff now, so I feel free.
Good answer.
That's a very good answer. I think a little bit of us in some way, shape, or form are just a tad bit envious of the stance you've taken and a little bit proud of you. I just wanted to say that, you know, it's been a long road for all of us in content creation. And I just wanted to thank you and congratulate you on my platform on your new direction, man. So just happy for you, bro.
Thank you, guys. I want to thank all of you guys for helping me get to this point.
Definitely. All right. So let's get into it because no one cares about what Jesse and Grant, what they're doing today. So let's get into it. Shanahan's defensive coordinate. You got to coordinate. Shanahan's defensive coordinator. All right. He had the mushroom belt with the mushroom coat, and then he had the mushroom shoes. He's got to coordinate. The biggest issue with Kyle Shanahan is that now that the season's over, he's only conducted 2 interviews for his defensive coordinator position, and it appears he's banking on Robert Saleh to return with being the highest paid defensive coordinator as the carrot. Is this a strategic move or is this risky for Kyle? Now, we already know the easy answer, which is you don't just put all of your eggs in one basket, but I want some of you to, dare I say, psychoanalyze a little bit. What is Kyle doing? And we already understand that this is weird, or most of us would have more interviews done. Kyle Shanahan himself said at the beginning of the offseason that he's going to have more time. You know, the season usually tuckers him out. And all of the guys are just gone, and I don't have enough choices to pick from. But it seems as though that he's been first in line, and he's still showing ineptitude with getting at least viable candidates in. So I'm going to start with Ryan. Okay, you guys take it around in with Jesse. What is Kyle Shanahan doing? And try to make sense of this, if at all.
It's hard to make sense of it, in my opinion. I think he needs to be looking at the college ranks, like Jim Knowles, for instance, just won a championship as the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. 59 years old, super experienced. Why is he not interviewing any of these guys from the college ranks? I think my best guess as to what's going on is they're all in on Robert Saleh, and they're all in on their backup plan, which I think is Brandon Staley. And I think that's where they're at. And the only other possibility that I could possibly see why they're approaching it this way is maybe he's waiting for teams that are still actively in the playoffs, trying to win a Super Bowl, if maybe he wants to poach from that group. Other than that, I don't really get it, man. I really hope they get Saleh because I think it's what they need in order to get this defense back to where it needs to be next year.
The only reason why I push back on one of the things that you said, Ryan, is that I don't want to give Kyle too much credit. the 4 defensive coordinators at large right now are Spagnuolo, Sean McDermott, who runs his own defense, whoever's running the defense with Dan Quinn running the Washington Commanders, and you have, who's else? The Eagles, a guy that Kyle already had a chance on at Vic Fangio and told him to keep moving. So who could he be waiting for out of the 4 teams? That's a hypothetical, right? I mean, that's it. I'm not trying to get you to answer that, but I just think that him waiting for the last guys, the last shoe to drop, not only is he waiting for guys that we already know are either head coaches and they're not viable or he's already passed on, but he's almost kind of putting himself in the same box that he was last season if he waits till after the season, because he would be essentially doing the same thing he did last season, would it not?
You know, it's still available though. Steve Wilkes, he's available if you guys. Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead, Grant.
He actually might be going to the Jets with Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I love that hire. Steve Wilkes is a really good coach. I think what Kyle Shanahan's doing is kind of, well, it's very Kyle. It's extremely arrogant and is kind of a slap in the face to his friend, Robert Saleh. Like, you're not going to get a head coaching job. Take your time. No, go ahead. Interview. You're not going to get it. You're not that guy. You can come on back to the 49ers. We'll pay you a lot of money, but you're going to end up right here because you're out of options. And we're not even going to really entertain or care that we're missing out on other candidates, which is a really risky game to play. And I don't know, like, let's say he doesn't get a head coaching job. Who's to say he picks the 49ers as his top defensive coordinator choice? The Lions have an opening, and he's from Michigan. He's from Dearborn, which is right next to Detroit. Maybe the Lions make a pretty competitive offer or a better offer, and he wants to go there for a lot of reasons. His family's there. Who knows? I mean, he might feel it's a better team. He might feel Dan Campbell has more job security than Kyle Shanahan. Who knows? So I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers, I wouldn't be surprised if Saleh goes to the Lions and if the Niners end up hiring Deshae Townsend, who was the pass game coordinator. They interviewed him as one of the 3 guys I've talked to. And so if Saleh goes to Detroit, Deshae Townsend will need to go somewhere. Could come here.
Man, what do you got, Jess?
Better than Staley.
Well, the Staley
is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? Because what kind of threw me?
Mike Silver tweeted yesterday that he thinks if it's not Saleh, it's Staley, which to me is a no-go, unacceptable.
Well, what's kind of confusing about that is that Kyle, I mean, if you want to talk about like a vote of confidence, Jesus, at the exit interview, press conference, Kyle all but kind of like shrugged off Brandon Staley kind of getting a shot at even interviewing for the job. He kind of like pushed it off like, I'll give him a shot. I'll hear him out. And if Brandon Staley is a viable option, how is this not almost the same equivalent of a Nick Sorensen hire all over again if Brandon Staley ends up being the DC?
It is.
Seems that way to me.
It is. And you know what's crazy is Joey Bosa, my understanding, doesn't have a good relationship with Brandon Staley. So why would Nick? I think that's why you're not seeing anything. Sorry, I know Jesse's got to go, but I think that's why you're not seeing anything. He's hey, it's Saleh or it's Staley. I got Staley. If it's not Saleh, that's what we're gonna do. I think that's why we're seeing it play out the way we do.
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to make sense of it, that has to be it, right? Like, he's comfortable with the backup option, which let's assume that's Staley. I guess my biggest issue with Staley is not that he couldn't be a good defensive coordinator or hasn't been a good defensive coordinator, but more so that I can't get over the fact that last year the Rams were in a similar situation as the 49ers, where they also needed a defensive coordinator. Staley was the defensive coordinator there before he went to the Chargers. They didn't even bring him in for an interview. And he did a quote unquote good job there if you look at statistics. But McVay didn't even want to interview him. It wasn't even an option for him. He went a completely different direction. And then Staley ends up here. That to me is telling if McVay wasn't even willing to talk to him for the position. So that's a bit concerning, but it has to be the only logical answer. It is a little bit interesting to me, though, that Kyle and John sat up there and said, hey, not making the playoffs is a blessing in disguise because now we have all this time and it won't be like last year. And last year we just, we were scraping from the bottom of the barrel and we didn't have a choice. And this is the route that we had to go. And it just ultimately wasn't the right decision. And here you are forcing yourself right back into that situation when you didn't have to. Now, maybe it's all going to work out. It does seem like things are starting to fall where they're going to get Robert Saleh, and they'll be praised for it, as they should, because Robert Saleh is a good defensive coordinator. But this thing is this close and was this close to being a disaster because of their own doing, and nobody wants to talk about that. It's just, well, the result will be what it is, and it doesn't matter, so we should be all good with it. And it's like, no, you didn't have to go this route. And it was interesting because I did a show yesterday. It was a 57-minute show. Within the first few minutes, my talking point was this Robert Saleh situation. By the time that show had ended, all these dominoes had dropped. It was like Ben Johnson was hired. Dennis Allen was presumed to be his guy. Anarumo went to the Colts, and all of these things started to happen. It's like, you see how quickly everybody can be gone if you don't at least get ready for this. So it just seems like they're not fully prepared, or they're just very comfortable with Staley as a backup option.
One thing to keep in, that's awesome perspective, Jesse. One thing to keep in mind as well is that we're not necessarily opening up a blank canvas to a coach, right? Where we're bringing in a coach who's saying, hey, I'm going to come in and do things my way. We're going to have to move some things around in order for my guys to come in. Essentially, we're still trying to find that, arranged marriage in a sense of the wide nine guy who's going to keep Coach Kasarik, who's going to keep Johnny Holland, who's going to run the same thing, be able to let Nick Bosa sit at his 9 technique and chase after the quarterback and give up contained flat crashing down on the line of scrimmage. But my biggest thing is that when you do have that, you're not really shopping for the best option. You're just shopping for really the best fit. And honestly, when you shop for the best fit, are you really getting the best? So, it's something that I've noticed. And even if Saleh comes back, what is the conversation going to be when we have the conversation with Saleh in the building and we're sitting here staring at each other and saying, maybe it's just the wide 9. It's just the wide. It's the scheme. No matter what you bring in here, it's the scheme. So I hope we get Coach Saleh. Not only is he going to be, a great addition to what we brought defensively, but I believe that the soul of the team would come back. One of the biggest things that
feel like I just want to throw this out there. I also feel like there's this thought that Robert Saleh is just going to come in and everything's going to be fixed. We'll be right back to 2019, off and rolling. Do we not realize how many holes are on this defense? And I guess we're going to talk about that. Maybe that'll be something that somebody brings up in one of these other topics, but it's like, there's so many issues with this defense. Robert Saleh is not going to just roll in. He doesn't have Eric Armstead and Buckner and D Ford, and the crew's not there. They may not even have Dre Greenlaw. Like, there are serious issues that I don't know that it matters who the coach is as much as it matters how the hell are you going to fix this roster?
No, I agree with that. Grant, you were going to chime in?
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, but Jesse made a great point.
Awesome. Moving on to our next topic. So, 49ers lessons from playoff teams. With 4 teams left in the playoffs, what can the 49ers learn from each team? What we're going to do is each of us is going to take a team. I'll go last, but what I would like to do is I'd like to start with Grant since he has an empty mind. He can start with his topic. Grant is going to start with the Chiefs. All right. Ryan, you're going to take the Eagles. Jesse, you're going to take the Bills, and I'll take the Washington Commanders. From what you've seen thus far, even in the season and these teams breaking into the playoffs, but specifically the playoffs, these teams have traversed through their respective opponents. And I'd like you to just tell me, what can the Niners learn from the respective teams that you've been assigned? I'll start with you, Ryan.
You start with me.
Yeah, I know it was going to be Grant, but I want to start with Ryan. Go.
All right. Hey.
Because I figured, like, if it goes Ryan, it's going to be all over the place. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Sorry.
I think it's smart to start with me, honestly. The Eagles. Look, I think the Eagles are the best team. I appreciate you giving me the Eagles. I think there's more lessons that can be learned from the Eagles for the 49ers than any of these teams that you mentioned. Or I can go on for forever. But the Eagles are attempting to win a Super Bowl right now. I see you, Grant. They're attempting to win a Super Bowl right now with the same formula that the 49ers have tried to win a Super Bowl over the past years. Now, that 49ers team is not like the Eagles anymore. That's the problem. let's start with this. They have a quarterback who is good, not great. 49ers have a quarterback who is good, not great. They have to pay Brock Purdy. The Eagles showed the 49ers exactly what you should be doing when you're going to be paying Brock Purdy. They need to structure his contract the same way that they did Jalen Hurts. And then you have a team that's attempting to win a Super Bowl because they have a good, not great quarterback with an elite defense, the best offensive line in the NFL. This is what it's going to take if the 49ers want to get back to where they were last year, because that's who they were.
Oh, he had so much he wanted to say, but he just got frozen.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
All right, you're good. You're back. You're back.
I did upgrade the freaking internet, I promise.
Real quick, to me, the Eagles, like it's like so glaring. It's like the power of a great offensive line. Like, why is Barkley having the best season of his career?
The O-line.
That offensive line.
It's the formula.
Why is Hurts such a winner?
Because the offensive line. He gets to sit back there and bake cakes all day. I mean, he's never rushed.
Pickett won. Tanner McKee won. It's such a cheat code. And the Niners are like, don't get it.
Yeah. Also, another thing that we could kind of pick out from the Eagles too. You get to see the results of an organization that really forces their head coach to get it right. It's like, yo, go out there and go get the coaches. We're not giving you any excuses, and get it done or you're gone. And this team is ours.
You're replacing the Niners for sure.
Yeah. This team is ours, and you are here to manage this team. All right. We will get you out of here and put somebody else in if you cannot do the job. This isn't your team. None of the Eagles fans are running around talking about how much Nick Sirianni's influence has brought in this offensive line. And we'd be nothing without Nick Sirianni, without this defense. It's like, no, Eagles fans are like, if he can't get this done, ship his ass out of here. All right. That's what an organization does. I'm sorry for stepping on your Eagles points, Ryan, but I see that from the Eagles as well.
I lost it when the internet went out. That was my chance. And
okay,
you're back.
I think all the points you made are great, and there's a lot more. The last one I'm going to say is the way that the Eagles have built this roster through the draft is another formula that the 49ers need to follow. And if they're going to win and compete for a Super Bowl, they have to build a solid team around Brock Purdy because, again, I put him in that same range as Jalen Hurts. Not the same game, but good, not elite.
Also, a big reason they had a turnaround this year is they got Fangio. Let's see if the Niners can do something like that.
That's a huge one.
That was such a huge come up. Fangio.
Huge
Fangio
come
and
up.
Barkley. Oh, we had a down season, 11-6. Yeah, Fangio and Barkley. That's nice. I'll do it.
Grant, take the Chiefs. What can we learn so far? What could the 49ers glean from the Chiefs thus far in the playoffs?
Well, I think the Niners have so many excuses about why they're not good this year, and they use we played a lot of games, like we've had a lot of football. Chiefs have played more games than them, and I think when you look at just like a roster construction standpoint, the Chiefs are a lot different than the Niners, and I think the Bills have sort of followed the Chiefs. The Chiefs have shown that weapons are highly overrated, and you don't need to be investing in that. You draft them, but you don't need to be giving out a bunch of extensions to running backs and wide receivers. What do the Chiefs invest in? They churn their roster
offensive
a lot.
Line.
They're one of the younger. They invest in the middle of the field essentially. Offensive line, all
D
the
tackles,
quarterback, tight end, D tackle. They often have a pretty good linebacker, and they often have a safety that they're spending on. It doesn't matter who the cornerback is, they trade him. They traded Jerry Sneed, they traded Travarius Ward, they traded D Ford. They don't really invest big in the edges of their team. They had a lot of money invested in Tyreek Hill, and then they even traded him. So I think it's an interesting way to build your team, and the Niners are not even close. They're like the opposite of that. They're the inverse of that. So that's one. And then the other thing I think they show is like what's the power of stability at defensive coordinator. They're not constantly looking for a new guy to run their defense. They have a head coach essentially on offense and a head coach on defense, and both of them are arguably Hall of Famers, and neither one is going anywhere anytime soon. And as a result, they're by far the best coach team in the league. And it's like, why are they 15-2? Their offense is kind of boring, and they have to get rid of really good corners every year. Oh, because they're by far the best coach team in the league. So I don't know. I mean, even getting Saleh he has one good year, he's gone. He's a head coach somewhere else, most likely. So it'd be nice to get him, but it would also be nice to get their Spagnuolo, whoever that is.
Mm. That's awesome.
I want to say something real quick about the Eagles too. We'll see how the season ends for them. But if the AFC wins the Super Bowl again, then the Eagles and the 49ers really combined over the last few years have shown that there is a max out for a team that doesn't have an elite quarterback. Like, it doesn't matter how good the team is. It doesn't matter how great the running back is, how great the weapons are, how great the defense is, how great the offensive line. You can have everything, but if you don't have that quarterback, it's not going to matter. So I'm curious to see if the Eagles can get it done. If the Eagles can go win a Super Bowl, then that, to me, helps the 49ers kind of build their case, and 49er fans build their case. Like, listen, we'll just make this great team, or we've got this great team. We'll just keep building on it and we'll get there. But if they can't, and you've seen the 49ers max out with now 2 different quarterbacks, and the Eagles max out getting to the Super Bowl twice potentially and not being able to get through to the other side, despite having the clear better roster both times, there is a limit to this thing. And the limit is not winning a Super Bowl. So that would be discouraging.
And to your point, the Chiefs don't have to spend on weapons because they have a truly elite quarterback. If you don't have a truly elite quarterback, you do need to spend on A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. Like, you can't just invest in the offensive line and be like, well, if we keep Jalen Hurts upright, he'll slice and dice the defense. Like, no, he won't.
No, he won't.
No, he won't. And neither will Brock Purdy. So that's kind of the problem when you end up paying $50, $55, $60 million a year to a quarterback who's not truly elite. He still needs weapons. You still don't want him throwing 30 passes a game. And to Jesse's point, you're going to get maxed out at some point, even if it's in the Super Bowl.
And if you also, real quick, Coach, to Jesse's point, we just saw what happens to a stacked roster with a mid quarterback with the Detroit Lions. They're out. They're at home.
And the Vikings.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, I was just having this conversation about I think that these next couple of years, fans are going to understand not necessarily how bad we are or how much we're struggling, but I think people are going to start looking back into the last 5 to 6 years and start truly getting how ridiculously loaded we were. Like, you don't get 9 Pro Bowlers on one team. Like, this is a lot of talent for us to go to the Super Bowl. This wasn't, we're just one player away. This was an embarrassment of riches that it took to move all of this to get to the Super Bowl without a quarterback. And that's what I don't think fans are necessarily getting it yet, is that you have to have a team like the Eagles or like us 2 years ago or last year, where you have that much loaded players on both sides of the ball to even have a shot if you don't have a quarterback. I want to take over with the Washington Commanders because that's my point. My point now is that
why are the Eagles so good on defense right now? Because they've drafted really well and they got Vic Fangio. It's not like they can make big investments in that side of the ball anymore.
No.
Yeah,
it's not like they can go get a guy. And every year they're always top of the food chain of what's going to happen, who's going to leave, who can they sign, who do they have to let go. I mean, look, we got Javon Hargrave off the heap from them. I mean, one thing that I'll just segue right into is with the Washington Commanders. A lot of the points that you guys have all been touching is one of the things that I believe that the 49ers can take from the Washington Commanders. The leading receiver of the Washington Commanders is Terry McLaurin with 1,096 yards. The next closest leading receiver for the Washington Commanders is Zach Ertz with only 654 yards. Okay. Wow. The leading rusher of the Washington Commanders is not Byron Robinson. It's not Austin Eckler. It's Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has rushed for 891 yards for the Washington Commanders, and he is their leading rusher. This is a team with a defense that is reeling. They are unimpressive on defense. All right. We all know that. This is a team that does not have a true number 2 receiver outside of what they have. And they're 12-5. They're 29th ranked overall on defense, 15th ranked overall on offense, 20th overall. And they're in the NFC Championship game. Why? Because they got a quarterback.
Yeah.
They went and got their guy. They didn't go up to number 3 for the chance to have a guy because they have a loaded infrastructure around them and they built the whole team together. No, they went and handled what needed to get done first. Not only that I'd like to talk about with the Washington Commanders is They're incredibly ran well.
Yeah,
The ownership group, it's not just the quarterback. You have the defensive-minded coach that leans on the offensive coordinator and tells him, run the damn ball. We're going to protect Jaden. You know how many yards Jaden Daniels averages a game? He only averages 209 passing yards a game. They protect him. All right? That is a team where you got a defensively led coach who runs the show. I'll touch on the Bills. When we watch the Bills,
one more thing. They got a hell of a general manager. Hell of a general
manager. I'm about to go there.
It's just like one after the
one after the other.
Things, they're set
Let's go with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, you know the best quality, and I can't believe that I didn't see this all year. But you know what the Bills' greatest quality is? They do what it takes. They've got no ego. They leave no stone left unturned. If they need to run the ball all day, they're going to run the ball all day. And they're not going to get caught up with the fact that Josh Allen is going into the half only throwing the ball 3 to 4 times. They don't care. They do not care. They're about a dub. All right? They put their best foot forward and they leave nothing to chance. One of the things that bothers me when I watch a team like the Washington Commanders go all the way to the NFC Championship game is that is a team that has used literally every asset that they have to be successful. They haven't sat back and watched guys who are overpaid play. They haven't had wars of attrition with guys holding out or people thinking that they're bigger than the team. They haven't gotten to this war on the field, literally, where the offensive coordinator is running a stream of offense that nobody understands why they're doing it. They have a mode of how they do things. They have an identity. And a lot of why they are where they are right now is because they're simply letting teams beat themselves. We're going to come and run the ball. We're a young team. We're a 60-minute football team. We got a defensively led coach in the worst part of our team. Now, think about that. When we have another thing that the Washington Commanders has pointed out to me about the 49ers that I think the 49ers should take they should take some notes from is that their head coach actually elevates the weakest part of their team. The weakest part of the Washington Commanders is that defense. And Dan Quinn is getting them to play lights out with less than a full deck. There are some of all parts over there. And he's got those boys playing inspired ball. Okay? The same thing with the Bills. The Bills are a middle-of-the-pack defense. They're not anything to write home about. You see what they did against the Baltimore Ravens this past weekend? That was inspired ball. And I'm telling you, that's what I believe that the 49ers need to take notes from, is that these teams are ran well. Everybody has a job. They're not worried about who gets credit, and they will do anything to win. That's part of the reason why the Chiefs are still here, too. They specialize in winning. That's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the Bills have done what Kansas City's done. They just took the blueprint. They're like, okay, we believe we have a quarterback that's on the level of Mahomes, so we're going to take away the best weapon, and we're going to get rid of him. He's a malcontent. Gone. We'll just death by 1,000 cuts. We have 3 running backs we can trust. We have 2 tight ends we can trust. We have 4 wide receivers we can trust. None of them are great, and that's okay. But we're going to allow Josh Allen to make the right plays, and we will keep him in games. And then when we need it, if we need it, we'll deploy him and allow him to go win games for us. And that's
their number one weapon. That's crazy.
And that's their number one weapon. Yeah. And they just they let it. And that's, if you look at how they won this last weekend,
they bring out the queen. It's like, here we go.
Yeah.
They didn't make any mistakes.
Yard line, you're screwed. Yeah.
They just outlasted the Ravens. It was a staring contest and the Ravens blinked first. That was it. They didn't do anything special. They didn't have to do anything special. They just played mistake-free football. Now, if they needed Josh Allen to be special, he would have been special. He would have been special. They didn't need it. There's no reason for it. So why?
I mean, it was a joy to watch the playoffs, and that's what I've seen from those teams where you see these guys, excuse me, you see these guys and the way they go through. And just the biggest thing that struck out to me is that they're not running an offense. They're not running a scheme. These guys are playing hat-on-a-hat football, and they're letting their roster do the talking. Like, the Bills could not stop the run all year. Like, if it wasn't for our injuries, we had success running the ball against the Bills in the snow, right? And to see the inspired football that they played against the Ravens, it's just a kudos to them, and really it's just something that you just wish that you can kind of rub off on us, because those are some things that I think that we could have gleaned off all of the teams. Let's move into our next topic, guys. 49ers top fixes for the 2025 seasons. After a 6-11 season and missing the playoffs, the 49ers need a clear plan for improvement. What is the one must-do move, if you guys could only choose one, that can bring them back to contention next year? I'll start with you, Grant. For real.
Yeah, I mean, like we spent so many days on YouTube talking about like what Kyle needs to do in close games and big games. I don't really think they're even at that level anymore. I think they've kind of fallen back, and they need to work on basics. They need to completely fortify the middle of their defense. Their run defense is a joke. They can't compete with Saquon Barkley and the Eagles now. They need 2D tackles, 2 linebackers, and a safety. Getting an edge rusher in round 1 is nice, but they'll never ever rush the quarterback because they're going to be giving up 150 yards on the ground a week. So it's like they're entering year 9 and they want to keep it together and they have a good core, but they can't stop the run, which means they're freaking soft and they can't beat Washington. They can't beat Philly. They can't beat Detroit. They have to get a defensive tackle, I don't know, in free agency with their first round pick, and they can't miss. They need Jalen Carter. They need Bobby Wagner. I mean, they went from freaking Dre Greenlaw and Eric Armstead to Devondre Campbell and Malik Collins. And we didn't really realize going into the season that was a huge freaking problem. They haven't really fixed that. Until they fix that, I don't take their defense seriously at all. So that's a start.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Ditto. No, I mean, that's honestly that's my take. I think the defensive line is the most important thing, particularly the inside. To me, they need to get a DJ Jones or the guy Jesse brought up a couple weeks ago, and they need to draft a guy. They can't afford to just get young and just hope both players work out on the inside. I don't see that as a reasonable solution. So to me, they got to get a free agent. I would go DJ Jones or Jesse's guy. I'm slipping my mind right now, Jess. And and I would draft a guy. To me, that's the most important missing element for the 49ers right now. Now, there's a lot of them, but stopping the run in the interior. And not only that, nothing is going to help Nick Bosa get back to playing better like he has in the past than having that dude next to him. I mean, look at what Justin Smith and Alden Smith were able to do together. Nick Bosa needs his Justin Smith. So that's what they need.
I agree.
Jess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as far as the roster building and what they have to do. I just think it's interesting because we do look at it. They definitely need to shore up the run defense. They need to shore up the offensive line. All these things are true. But even if they do those things, guys, there's something here that's at play that started in the Super Bowl for all 4 of these players and continued all the way through this last season for one reason or another. Even if they make all of those other things right, they still have 4 players that are extremely highly paid that are underperforming at a high level. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, CMC. Again, all for very different reasons. If those 4 don't get it together, if those 4 continue to struggle and make the money that they are making, they're not going to be good regardless. They can fix all those other things, but that's too much money in those 4 players for them to not get performance. They need probably 3 of those guys to bounce back to be at least 90% of what they were in 2023 if this team's truly going to have a chance. And unfortunately for the 49ers, that's kind of outside of their control. The only thing they can do, and the right thing to do, and maybe the case of Deebo or what have you, is realize that it's not going to happen and maybe move on a year early before it's too late. But they're not going to do those things. So if those guys are going to be on the roster, they're really relying on those 4 to step up and be close to what they were the year prior. Because as of now, what they are is really good names that were really good in 2023, but none of them, there is no guarantee that any of them are going to perform at even close to that level in 2025, and that's a concern.
So the 2 wide receivers, the left tackle, and the running back.
Well, I mean, I hate to, poo-poo this, but none of them are going anywhere. Part of them,
I agree.
Part of them signing is
So they need them to step up.
Exactly. I don't think they need to step up. And that leads into my next point. I think one of the things that we have to do is Kyle needs to learn how to use the Silver Fox gang. These guys are older, all right? And you can't just unintelligently use these guys and throw Christian out and use him at 20 snaps from scrimmage, even if he is healthy. If the number one thing is that we'll see what this team is going to do next season based off of the first drive of the first game of the season. We'll know. We'll all see it. And if we see the same 10-play script or 15-play script where Kyle's passing the ball 4 times in a row and running draws and screens with Christian, and finally we maybe get to the 8th play in the game, and then we get a run out of Christian McCaffrey off tackle for an outside zone play, or we see Kyle Juszczyk going in multiple screens back and forth before pre-snap, we'll understand what this is. But the truth is that it always starts and ends with Kyle Shanahan. And I believe that the biggest thing that they need to change this year is that what's Kyle's ownership going to be, not only to his newly minted offensive coordinator, but also the guy who he keeps stomping on the table for, saying that he's this guy in Brock Purdy. More ownership from Brock Purdy is going to have to be needed this year, because in certain instances, I understand that Brock has gotten just due criticism because, when you're the man, you got to be able to take the hits. But also, just from a football standpoint, none of you guys, I think we can all sit here and agree. Do you guys think that Brock Purdy owns this offense? Is this his offense?
It's Kyle Shanahan's offense.
It's Kyle Shanahan's offense. Does Brock Purdy have ownership where Brock can come on the field? Like, are they sitting Brock down and Kyle and Brock are sitting down before games like we know Coach Harbaugh and Justin Herbert are doing, like we know how Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels are doing, like we know Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are doing? Is Kyle sitting Brock down and asking him what he likes, what he doesn't like? How are we going to put this game plan together? No, we know he's not. So really,
to be fair, I don't know that we do know that. I mean, that's the assumption based off of who Kyle portrays to be, but we don't know that. Like, I don't know. I think that's unfair. Why I feel comfortable saying that on stream? Because Brock can't call audibles. So what the hell are they talking about before games?
I got
There's still things that could be inserted in the game plan.
Huh?
To me, I got another thing that they could fix on this team that they could address. I mean, they used to talk about their quarterback room, wanting to have a strong quarterback room. Their quarterback room is weak. And they can give Brock Purdy money if they want. That's between them. It's not my money. It's not my cap space. But they're not done looking for a quarterback by any means. They haven't found an elite quarterback. They haven't. So what I think is, I think that the Eagles are very much an organization to emulate. They gave Jalen Hurts a lot of money. He's not an elite quarterback. You could argue, whatever, it's the market and he works for us. Fine. I want to say 2 weeks later, they drafted Tanner Mordecai, and then the next year they traded a third-round pick for Kenny Pickett. And not that those guys are not Tanner Mordecai, Tanner McKee, and Kenny Pickett. So the Philadelphia Eagles have a strong quarterback room full of young, talented players that they've invested in. The Niners have Brock Purdy, who, I mean, maybe he'll make it through all 17 games this season. He runs around a lot. He gets hurt. So I think if they were to draft a quarterback in round 2, I wouldn't be against it.
I like Will Howard from Ohio State.
Whoever you
I've been saying that for a while. I mean, if you're gonna pick a guy, I don't like any of the top guys. I don't like Cam Ward. Cam Ward's cool, but I don't think he would have been a first round pick last year. Right? I think he's a product of a weak quarterback drive, quite frankly. I'm out on Shador. I don't like him off the field. And really, what's the kid? Jackson Dart? Yeah, he's okay. He's kind of strikes me as, what's the kid that Drew Lock? He kind of strikes me as another Drew Lock in a sense, like big arm, talented, but nothing really there from the neck up. I don't think. I like Will Howard. He's played great football. He's broken tons of records before he transferred out to Ohio State. And I don't know, what'd you guys think about him last night? Did you guys need to see the game?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
it was boring.
I'm not.
Will Howard's good. He is good.
I got to dive in deeper about it. I haven't been blown away by any of these college prospects yet, but I got to dive in deeper, and I don't even know if I will this season.
It's a good trenches draft, honestly. D-line, interior D-line. There's a lot of good, talented safeties and corners this year, but you're right. Offensively, it's a lot to be desired. It's not a lot. Yeah. Let's move into our next topic, guys. Diamador Lenore wants Max Crosby. We saw this on Twitter. All of you have seen it. Diamador Lenore's latest tweet about Max Crosby sparked trade buzz, if it did. Should the 49ers target Max Crosby as a bookend for Nick Bosa? What do you guys think? Obviously, players are always going to, talk with a blank checkbook because we never can count on them for trying to make sense of anything. So we already know that this was a knee-jerk reaction from Diamador Lenore. We're not going to, really parse it out as if it was serious. But what do you guys think about it if it was to happen? Is it something that would help the Niners, or is it something that's actually a viable move? What say you guys? I'll start with Jesse.
I don't think it's a move that they should make at all. I think this is a move you make if you're one step away and you've got everything else figured out. Right now, the 49ers, in my opinion, they have to really shift the way that they look and build this roster. They can't continue to add high-paid superstars that are making quarterback money because they're about to pay Brock Purdy. They've already got Bosa, who makes more annually than Baker Mayfield. And you're going to add another guy who makes more than Baker Mayfield to bookend him. That's not going to help your run defense. It's not going to help protect your franchise quarterback. It's not going to do any of those things. It's a great name, and I'm sure, yes, it does help. Max Crosby is going to help anybody, but him alone is not going to solve these problems. So then you're going to trade a first-round pick plus some, give up more assets that are needed to build this roster out, to bring in another superstar that's not going to help really the main issue on this team. I feel like that move is an NBA move that doesn't win you championships. So for me, as much as I love Max Crosby, I'm out on trading for Max Crosby. The 49ers should not be the team, if he's even available, to make that move.
Can I go?
Sure.
Here's what you do. You trade Nick Bosa's ass the hell out of here.
I was going to say that. Damn it.
And then you get Max Crosby, because Max Crosby is way better than Nick Bosa. He has a motor, and then he smokes a blunt in the locker room after the game.
He does smoke. He does smoke. Kudos.
Yeah, that's what I would do. It'd be a huge upgrade over Nick Bosa, and you can get all your draft capital that you spent to get him, probably trading Nick Bosa. It's a win-win. Make the move.
I mean, average annual salary of Max Crosby, he makes $23.5 a year. Nick's at 34, so you got some room to catch up.
He's in for a new deal, though. He wants to get paid.
Yeah, he's got no more guaranteed money left.
Good though. This guy has the best motor in the NFL, maybe, and he never takes.
He's what Bosa should be.
He plays like every.
Okay. So quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question. Yeah. Flat out, do you think you got Max Crosby over Nick Bosa?
Easy,
absolutely,
easy.
Jess,
I don't know. I
don't know either.
I think they're super.
I don't
close.
think Nick Bosa gets enough credit for what he does in the run game, dog.
I think Max Crosby's really good, and I do love his motor. I think it's a toss-up, but I don't know.
Easy. Max Crosby in the run is so much better. Yes.
And
say it again.
Bosa, to me too, like you can always throw screens at his side. You can bootleg to his side. You can run jet sweeps to his side. He overruns the quarterback frequently. He's the reason a lot of the times that the quarterback's scrambling on the Niners. Like he seems one-dimensional to me. He's kind of a sack artist, and he's not getting you 15 to 20 anymore. And he's the most expensive player in the team. Trade him. What could you? The thing is, I was looking at, like, if they were to trade him this year, they would take a massive dead cap hit and have no cap savings. So they can't, I don't think, but they could do it next year. And I wonder, could you get two first-round picks for him, or has he not produced enough the last couple of years to get that?
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is, pass rushers are like, they're like supercars. Nobody wants to own them because it takes $6,000 to change the oil. But you're damn sure go to Miami and rent one for a weekend. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So
Green
it's like,
Lamborghinis.
yeah, and that's how I see pass rushers, honestly, in the NFL. Where
Green Lamborghinis.
yeah, yes, green Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how I see it, though. You can get these guys and bring them in, use them for a couple of years, get them out of here. But you don't have to be married to any of these guys, especially at $34 million a year. And they're not clipping at least 12 to 15 sacks a year, at least. So on the comparison to Max Crosby,
investing in defensive ends unless you're certain he's Reggie White. Like, unless you're certain it's a Hall of Famer and you just can't let this guy go. That's a position that you just don't pay. It's super expensive. And are you sure that guy's going to give you 18 sacks a year? You sure? Because if he doesn't, what are you getting? What are you really getting?
Max Crosby.
And then the injury history.
Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, J.J. Watt, to be those three players, it's worth it. Now, Bosa, he's not anymore.
Agreed.
Bosa's not complete like those three players I mentioned are. Those are complete defensive ends against the run, against the pass, motor. Just Garrett's old, but
yeah. Now, Myles Garrett's old. We got it. Nick Bosa may not be giving us the numbers, but that defensive line he plays with is absolute trash. Myles Garrett plays with a good D line as well as TJ Watt. So we also got to understand that I know that people don't look at defensive line at in the same way that they may look in offensive line, where we have individual players but we play as a unit. But defensive line plays in that way as well. And as far as a unit is concerned, if you don't have a good interior defensive line, if you can't stop the run in the A gaps, man, they're going to abuse the edges, right? And it's hard for Nick Bosa to get over two gaps to stop anybody. In a sense, I will be honest, you gotta the thing that I would say, if just to kind of shed light on this conversation, is Nick Bosa needs help. I don't think Max Crosby needs anything to get off. Right? I don't think that TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, they're worried about who's literally lined up two gaps over or one gap over. They're just they just are instant production. I believe that what takes Nick a step below all of those guys is that we've seen Nick without favorable talent around him, and his play has dipped with his teammates. And that's one thing that you don't see out of Myles Garrett, no matter how bad Cleveland is. He's going to be Myles Garrett. No matter whatever Pittsburgh or Las Vegas is doing, those guys are going to shine. And that's what I feel like we haven't seen out of Nick Bosa, especially at $34 million a year.
He gave you 9 sacks this year, but Leonard Floyd gave you 8.5. And Bosa missed a few games. I mean, he's just like, he's a good player, but he's not the kind of player that the Chiefs would have given $34 million a year to. That was another point I wanted to make earlier about what the Niners should take from the Chiefs. They wouldn't have paid Bosa. They wouldn't have paid Ayuk. They wouldn't have paid Debo. They wouldn't have re-upped McCaffrey. Like, what are you doing? You got to be way more brutal and have higher standards. You're the 49ers. You don't just give everyone money because they want it.
It's almost like it's like they didn't realize that they're the ones who created this. They almost have to acquiesce to the players. They think the players are the ones who put the culture into the building, not the other way around. That's one thing that I will see.
Confidence that they can draft and develop the next one. I mean, yeah, Travarius Ward's really good. They had L'Jarius Sneed. Yeah, L'Jarius Sneed's really good. They have Trent McDuffie. Are they going to pay McDuffie? We'll see.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him too.
Yeah. Hey. But you know why you can do that though, Grant, is because you know how to develop.
Yeah, you got
a real coaching staff.
Yeah, you have a great coaching staff. Absolutely. But
what quarterback stiff arm Bosa this year? Remember that?
Baker Mayfield.
That was
Max Crosby's not getting stiff armed by Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry.
Hell no.
Right there.
That's not happening.
No,
not happening.
Yeah. Nope. Next topic, then we're gonna get some super chats and then we'll get out of here, guys. You guys have been amazing.
Yeah, he is.
He is making more money. Damn, that just hit. He's making more money than Baker Mayfield.
I don't like it. I'd take the picks. I would take the picks.
You always want to trade everybody, Grant, and it doesn't do you any favors. You want to do it every year. So when you call it out, it's hard for people to take you seriously. You got to pick your shots, Cone.
Ryan takes me seriously. I'm picking my shots this year. I would trade Bosa. That's the only guy I'm trying to trade. I'm not trying to trade anyone else.
So you're off George. You're off. Who are the guys who you usually say?
George is safe.
George had the best career of his year. He had the best year of his career.
Bounce back because I put him on the trade block. You never know. I'm doing a service.
I've been saying to trade Bosa for 2 years, just for the record. Before they paid him, I said trade him.
I'm just writing
also
on this one.
I think that it's time for you, Grant, to take credit for Tang's All-Pro year. Didn't Tang get nominated this year? Second team. I mean, you could only attribute that to the motivation throughout the year.
Maybe if I motivated him better, he would have been first team. I mean, he lost out to a guy who touched the ball like 3 times. Patrick Ricard. That guy's a pulling guard, and he beat out our guy. He had 3 touches this year. He gained 22 yards. He did score a touchdown though.
Hey, making the Pro Bowl or All Pro as a fullback is like me having the best 49ers show hosted by a guy named Ryan, right? Like it's not that many. You know what I'm saying?
I don't understand why fullback is still a position that gets recognized. It's not a position.
I mean,
anymore. There should be more.
Kind of like the shortest midget contest, you know?
Yeah, doesn't make sense. It's not a position.
I don't get it. Guys, last topic. Let's get into it. Purdy versus playoff QBs. Are fans missing the context? So let's get into it. Hold on. I don't know why this is moving this way. Anyway, I don't care. Across our individual shows during the season, it's time for us to eat a little crow, guys. I've been reading the tea leaves. But across our individual shows during the season, we occasionally compared Brock Purdy to other quarterbacks, as we should do. But anyway, some of who have now fallen short in the playoffs. With fans now attacking those QBs and insisting Purdy is better based on his postseason performance juxtaposed to those quarterbacks, are they justified in their criticism, or have they ignored the nuances of context, team dynamics, and circumstances? So we all pretty much had our pound of flesh on Twitter over the past week, especially over the first couple of rounds of the playoffs. And I feel like the conversation that was swirling around us was, eat your crow. You guys compared Brock Purdy to these quarterbacks. You made comparisons to what these guys did throughout the season. And now that they're in the playoffs and some of these guys aren't doing good or their teams are losing, you got to sit here and hear it from us. Because Brock Purdy, when he was in the playoffs, did far better than these guys, if you really want to make the comparison. So we feel justified. We feel justified in calling you out, Coach, Grant, Ryan, Jesse. I don't know why everybody calls you Jay on Twitter. It's really weird. But Jay, okay? But what's your rebuttal, guys? I mean, I wanted to give each other a chance to put it on wax in more than 140 characters, even though we know that's old school Twitter. So I'm going to start with you, Ryan. This is going to be great for you. You're out of the coop. Guess what? Ryan doesn't even have a Niners channel anymore. So you can really let it fly. Tell us how you really feel. Ryan, are the fans justified?
Part of the reason I've been thinking about doing what I just did this week for a long time. Part of the reason with my timing is the conversations that are being had around Brock Purdy as they watch with him from home other quarterbacks lose in the NFL is a reason why I just had to bow out. I can't stand the ignorance or the stupidity of the conversations around this team anymore by this fan base. Half of you guys, super smart, great people, glad to meet you. Half of you guys, absolute childlike conversations that I cannot take anymore. And thank you, because now I'm free like a bird and I'm gonna fly, goddammit. Like I honestly, the conversations around Brock Purdy are absolutely ridiculous. And I just can't, it's just pure stupidity. I'm out. I can't do it.
They're making their way over to YouTube right now. Look at my guy. Twitter trolls rocked Coach feelings. We're trying to make content and you're watching. Let it happen. Don't be that guy. Grant, how do you feel? I feel like, you know what, Grant, you go last. You're kind of the OG of these type of spats. Jesse,
Okay.
how do you feel about this? Are the fans justified to take their barbs, to swing at us? Are they justified?
Yeah, for sure they're justified. They're justified in feeling however they want to feel.
Mhm.
They can feel frustrated. They can have Brock's back. I mean, they're fans of the team. I'm a fan of the team. I get it. I
Right.
totally understand where they're coming from. But it doesn't mean that it's right. I mean, what's happening right now in the playoffs is old as time, where somehow it becomes worse to lose later on. For example, it's an indictment on LeBron James to make as many finals as he's made and lose in the finals. If he had just lost in the Eastern Conference Finals or the first round of the playoffs, wouldn't be that big of a deal. But once you make it that far, you better get it done. And Peyton Manning, I mean, if Peyton Manning was around today, Brock Purdy would be better than him right now. Nobody remembers how his first 7 years went of his career. He wasn't winning anything either. There's a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of great quarterbacks that weren't winning in the playoffs for one reason or another. But to me, like I'm confident in my stance. I'm confident that I watch as much or probably more football than 95% of the people that I'm arguing with. And I'm confident in what I see. So they can feel however they want to feel. They can be as frustrated as they want. But here's the thing. Ultimately, what ends up happening is this conversation digresses into personal insults. And that's when I know that I've won the argument, because you can't debate on a sports level. You get frustrated, you throw your hands up, you take personal shots. And that's great if you're trying to get a rise out of me. But ultimately, that just tells me you don't know what you're talking about. So if you
Right.
want to have an adult conversation and you want to talk about this from a statistical standpoint or a film standpoint, I'll entertain that all day long. But the moment you get worked up, I know you don't know what you're talking about. And self-admittedly, I had multiple people come to me after the 49ers played the Bills, said, geez, Jess, like you've been talking up Josh Allen for years. I finally see it. Oh, you finally see it. So how many times did you watch Josh Allen play in the 6 years he's been in the NFL? Most fans don't watch every team. They don't have time, and that's fine. I do. I geek out on it. I love it. This is what I enjoy doing. So I'm confident in my take. Brock Purdy's not as good as Justin Herbert. He's not as good as CJ Stroud. I never said that Jordan Love was better than him. And I think at this point, after the last 2 seasons and how they've played out, there's an argument for him and Baker. There really is. And that's
Baker.
where I'm at with it.
Baker.
Grant, take us home.
All right. I think what's interesting about this whole debate, like he had a bad year and everyone's saying like, all right, people were hurt, but when the team was healthy and he was in the playoffs, he didn't shit the bed. Like he was great. And that proves that he's somehow like more clutch or more mentally tough or more legit than Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, all these guys who outperformed him in the regular season. But I think what's funny is like they only use that criteria to defend Brock. So, for example, you talk to any Niner fan, you ask them about Jalen Hurts, right? Is Jalen Hurts a good quarterback? No, he's trash. But they have the same playoff resume. Jalen Hurts is 4-3. Brock is 4-2. Jalen Hurts has like 7 touchdown passes and 2 picks. Brock has 6-1, or it's the same. Neither one is really driving it. They're just trying to like not mess it up. But so when Brock does it, Niner fans are like, boom, that proves that he's an elite quarterback. It proves that he's better than every quarterback who lost. But when Jalen Hurts does it, oh, he has an offensive line. And then same thing with Kyle. Like Kyle's playoff record is shown as like proof that he's just elite as a coach. Where Nick Sirianni does the same thing. Hey, Niner fans, is Nick Sirianni a good head coach? No, he's trash. He's annoying. I can't stand Nick Sirianni. So it just feels like you use whatever you want to use to win whatever debate you're in that week. And whatever Niner fans happen to be in the debate, like, hey, our quarterback isn't the only one who shit the bed this year. Because frankly, Brock shit the bed. He had a lot of money that he could make. And every time he was in a close game where he could show that he was clutch and he's the man, he blew it every single time. So this is Niner fans like cathartic moment to be like, Jared Goff choked too. Like, yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Now he did it in the playoffs. Brock didn't even get there. But yeah, it's just people can find whatever advanced stats or whatever narrative they want to win any argument or engage in it. That's the way it is.
And you brought up they did it in the playoffs. Like that's the thing you hear too. Like Brock didn't do that in the playoffs. So like you bring up how Brock like crapped the bed multiple times when he was in a position to put the 49ers in the playoffs had he stepped up. Oh, but it wasn't in the playoffs. That's regular season. I'd rather my quarterback do that. Like they're doing everything
Who's
to
better in their Super Bowl loss, Brock or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts played way better.
But
he had the best game of his career.
Jalen Hurts zero credit for that. No credit. He's still trash. But Brock,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're talking, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I didn't. Like that's the thing that makes it frustrating for me. Like part of the reason why I got into this is because I used to I enjoy hearing all sides. I'm a football fan. I'm an NFL fan, and I want to have real conversations that aren't just blind fan homerism. Like that stuff is like nauseating to me. Like to fake pretend. It's like, are we 12? Are we 12 and in middle school debating about our football teams? Or are we adult men and women able to have real conversations about what we see? Like it's just highly irritating and it feels like a waste of time. We're 12.
We're definitely 12.
I do like the Hurts comment from Grant because he's absolutely right. It's funny because there's a segment of this fan base, and I don't want to put everybody under it. I did kind of yesterday on my show.
It really is.
There is a segment. There's a. It's not social media.
Not half.
It's
not
social
nearly
media,
as big as we think it is. Yeah.
No, it's a social media segment. Twitter, what have you. But there is a segment of this fan base that has spent the last 3 weeks basically saying every quarterback that's lost is worse than Brock, but they have not once said, okay, well, based off the same criteria, off of these playoffs, if we're going off of 1 or 2 games and how these guys are playing, saying, well, Jaden Daniels is better or Jalen Hurts is better. They're not doing that.
Where are the people talking about draftism?
Thing.
Where are people talking about draftism with Jalen Hurts, right? Hey, just because he wasn't a first-round pick.
Hey, now that I have this platform, I want to shout out to a special segment of this fan base that is on Twitter who hates David Lombardi. Can't stand David Lombardi and his takes, but they have the exact same takes. The exact same takes. Somebody explain that to me. You don't like David Lombardi, but you have the same homer ass takes. It makes no sense.
Yo, hey man, we're gonna close it out with there. Let's get some super chats to get out of here. Shyla, $5. Thank you. Which positions could we pick up in free agency, and which ones should we draft? For me, I've got one free agency crush, and that's Dahlman, the center free agent coming out of the Falcons. I really believe that the Niners need a center in the worst way. It's something, we haven't really had a center that was young and kind of in his prime, can actually take over games. The last time we had any resemblance of that is when we had Alex Mack for 1 year, and he was at the tail end of his career. I think we got Alex Mack from Atlanta, did we not? That right there even proved I think Kyle's quote was the center is the most important position on this team. And it's like, why are we rolling Jake Brendel out? So I really believe the Niners need to handle the center position issues.
I got a name.
Go ahead.
Cash out on Trey Smith. Just get the best guard on the free agent market. Take it from the Chiefs. He's going to be $20 million a year. But forget it. Who cares? Get an absolute potential Hall of Fame talent or Pro Bowl talent on your offensive line. You need to stockpile people that you're going to have on this line for a while, protecting your good, not great quarterback. Why not?
If the Niners got Trey Smith, I will be over the moon. That is a huge get.
It's not going to happen.
I love Trey. Yeah, but I love Trey Smith. But you know what's even crazier? Even if we got Trey Smith, one of the best positions that the Chiefs scout is offensive line.
I know.
Andy Reid is known as a great offensive line evaluator. So even if they lost him, you almost feel like they would even say, we're not paying for that type of production. We can go get that. So
they paid Tooney. They paid Creed Humphrey. They would pay offensive linemen. They have paid offensive linemen. They may just not be able. The problem is they paid Jawan Taylor. And that was a mistake. Maybe they might be able to pay Trey Smith too.
That's there.
Yeah.
Ivan Tain, the $2. Thank you. Why is Campbell starting ahead of Oren Burks?
Ivan, are you sitting down?
Let's do it.
Oren Burks isn't on the team anymore. He's on the Eagles.
He's in here with the Eagles.
Hey, Oren Burks is balling out on the Eagles. That's what's crazy. He had a game with 17 tackles.
Oren Burks, blast from the past. Joey Mellon's $4.99. Sorry to your son, Jesse. Ravens' loss was heartbreaking. I was rooting for Lamar. Coach fire. Harbaugh? Nah, Harbaugh.
Yeah, it's interesting. He actually took it.
there.
He took it pretty good. He took the loss pretty good. I think losing to the Chiefs was like much more devastating than losing to the Bills. So yeah.
How come no one ever puts John Harbaugh on the hot seat or even has
Ravens fans are. Ravens fans
They
are.
are.
Ravens fans
been like
absolutely.
20 years, and you have like a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you do nothing in the playoffs every year. I'm just saying, any other coach would get scrutinized.
This actually brings up a really good point, Grant, because it's funny.
Would the Niners take John Harbaugh?
I don't know. The 49er fans get frustrated with us, like as if we should hold everybody to the same standards. Like, I don't cover all those teams. I'll talk about those players, and if you ask me about them, I'll be honest. But go to those fan bases and those content creators. They are holding those guys accountable. Right. Those are the ones that are covering those teams. It's like we live in this silo where you only, you know what I mean? You're only 49ers, but these teams
and the national fans are, I think that's what I'm sort of like the 7 national people who have a voice. Yeah. How come no one ever questions John Harbaugh? Let's wonder.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
Sean McDermott gets questioned all the time. Is he doing enough with Josh Allen? What about freaking John Harbaugh? He has that job because he beat his brother in the Super Bowl 15 years ago with Joe Flacco. Like, cool.
Can I
go ahead?
I want to make this point again. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, they're in the AFC, right? Like that has to be part of the context too. It's not the same thing as being in the NFC, being Kyle Shanahan. I don't think.
Yeah, the Washington Commanders wouldn't have like snuck their way to the AFC Championship game. It wouldn't have happened.
Hell no. And I was me and Jesse just had that conversation. I feel like they snuck their way here. But let's get out last super chat, guys. Shala Q, $5. Thanks. I do have a question though. When comparing Jalen and Purdy, if the offensive lines were switched, who could be better though? Jaden Daniels. No, Jalen Hurts.
If you took Hurts off the Eagles and put Purdy on that team, would they be better or worse?
I think they're better. I think both of them are better where they're at. I think they're both better where they're at.
No,
personally agree.
No.
I think Purdy. if
Hurts Brock Purdy went to the Eagles, they would be better.
Ooh,
if Brock Purdy could get the ball out,
they would win a Super Bowl. They would win a Super Bowl.
The field, bro.
That's
he
fine.
Cannot
but
see
he
the
also
field.
Helps that running game.
Yeah, but when he can't see the field.
I think they're both.
That's when all of that athleticism turns on. When he can't be a quarterback anymore.
I prefer Brock Purdy. I prefer Brock Purdy, and I prefer that skill set. But for what the Eagles do,
I agree.
For what the Eagles do, you know how many cheap touchdowns and first downs they get that Brock Purdy would never be able to pick up from a freaking tush push? Like, come on, man.
That's because the boy can't hit the wide side of a barn. Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback, bro.
I'm not saying he isn't. But for that team, he can't be that bad. They're winning.
Jalen Hurts is accurate.
What he lacks as a passer, he makes up for as a runner.
But that's
ways
because
that Brock can't.
All right, okay. I agree with that.
He's limited as a passer for sure.
My issue is that a lot of his athleticism is utilized not necessarily as something that's added to his game, but more of a crutch because he cannot deliver the ball down the field. I feel that way about
and the Niners don't need that skill set, but it works for Philly. And I don't know that taking away that skill set and bringing in a quarterback who is not part of the run game, but a little bit more proficient as a passer necessarily makes him a lot better. In fact, I don't think it does.
And I don't think Jalen would be better on the 49ers. I think
I agree with that. I don't think he would.
Kyle would be not at all. I don't think he'd be good. Man, Kyle would have a heart attack on the sidelines. There's no way.
The drop off between Purdy and Hurts would be bigger on the 49ers than Hurts to Purdy. But I think for that team, it does work. When you say they would be better, then you're saying that they would have won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. And I don't believe that. At all.
To Shiloh's point, though, if you put Purdy on the Eagles,
how do they get better?
He would have done better than he did in the Niners.
Hold on, wait a minute. You're playing with words. Not get better. I just said be better. Sorry, go ahead, Grant. I didn't hear you.
I would say to Shiloh's point, I think if you put Purdy on the Eagles this year, he would have been more effective because every quarterback's more effective on that team because of the offensive line. Now, scheme, I don't know if he fits, but like you saw what Tanner McKee did, you saw what Kenny Pickett did. Having that offensive line scheme into forget scheme. Just having that one thing really helps offensive line, quarterbacks and running backs.
Agreed. We'll do that. Hey, yeah, and Harris says surprise coach dislikes Jalen Hurts, but since he went to his favorite college. Yeah, hey, look, I couldn't stand him when he was at Bama. When Tua came on, I was loving it. Like, get his ass off the field.
Thoughts on Jalen Milroe?
He's not the guy.
Okay, just wondering.
They're going to waste a pick. He's not ready. I watched that.
He's a second-round pick, right?
Third.
Okay.
And he's a second-round pick in this year's draft.
Because I'm trying to figure out which day 2 quarterback I want the Niners to take. And of course, I've watched none of them play. So I'm feeling it out. Jalen Milroe. Yeah. I watched him play against Michigan, and I remember thinking this guy's awful. But that's just one game. And Michigan's really good. So I don't know.
He's very athletic, like ridiculously athletic, but he's not accurate. He's not consistent. He's
nice little weapon to have, though.
You know who he is? He's that kid who quit with the Colts. What's his name? The big kid that can run fast. The kid out of Florida, Richardson. The quarterback.
Oh, I love big kids who can run fast.
Yeah, but that's about it, though.
Yeah,
but throw the ball a country mile.
Yeah.
Huh?
You can get that round 2 as opposed to the 4th pick in the draft.
I mean, you draft a quarterback in round 2 and he finds the way to the field. That's the fastest way to get fired. If you're a coach in the NFL.
Just saying. All the quarterbacks that are left, or they're in the draft, they made it to the division round of the playoffs this year, either first round picks or second round picks. I think waiting is getting harder to do because I think college is doing a better job of developing quarterbacks now. They stay in longer. They have a lot of pro style schemes and former NFL coaches. They come into the league much more ready to go.
Because of NIL.
That's a good point.
NIL, I think.
Well, they're getting paid to do it.
They play on like 3 different teams, 3 different schemes. I mean, they've been exposed to so much. They've all thrown like 1,400 passes, but by the time they get to the league,
it's Brock is kind of a proponent of that. Yeah, I don't think Milroe's the guy though. Will Howard, man.
Trey Lance goes to Commanders. I want to know. Do you guys think Adam Peters brings him?
No,
I don't even know.
Possible.
Because I feel like Adam Peters was like a big Trey Lance proponent.
I think he was too, but I think that the Commanders got over $90 million in cap space. They're just looking good, man.
Just out of spite, they bring him over, maybe. You know,
I'd like to see Trey Lance on the Eagles too. Like, I want to see him next to Saquon Barkley behind that offensive
If Trey
line,
Lance came to the Commanders, I'd go to games. I would go to games just to see. If I would go to preseason.
I'm still invested in the Trey Lance career arc. I want to know. I'm still invested. He's 24 years old.
You just can't quit him?
Hell no, absolutely not. You have to be 37 before I give up.
What'd you guys think about his last start with the Cowboys?
I watched it again 3 days ago. I thought it was pretty impressive for a guy who hasn't played much and hasn't played in a while. I'm not saying
I think what you see,
but I think he played all right.
I think what you see is that every time he plays, he does improve, and it's like you've seen him for 4 games. Like I don't know what you expect. Like if you expect that he's just going to be elite, then sure. But you do see from game to game there is improvement. So, and I felt like
he's
that.
Going to stick around the league, and I think we'll look up one day. He'll be 29, and he'll get.
You think he's gonna be the new Geno? They wrote me off. I didn't write back.
No, I didn't write back. I don't know about
like
that.
One of these guys like Justin Fields who has like 3 or 4 years of just losing, and they have to like wipe that all clean. He's just a guy who never found a place that would give him a shot. He'll get it eventually, I would imagine. He's not Josh Rosen. Even Josh Rosen got a shot.
And you know what else? Like, there's really no difference between the 20th best quarterback in the NFL and the 45th, if we're being real. Like, Trey could step in and be the 20th quarterback in the NFL. Like, I really think he has all the same potential and skills and mentality that you want. He just needs confidence in playing time, and then we'll be able to actually find out what he's capable of. But until then, which may not ever happen, we probably won't.
I just think he needs to be in the league long enough for his whole like shtick and his story to kind of wear off. So if there is a coach that feels willing to put him on the field and invest in him as a number 2 or something, you know, it'll be like pure talent, not this diamond in the rough guy who we're trying to revive his career. You know, like I'm just waiting for him to be like Trevor Lance. Like, just like some weird guy. Like, he needs to go ahead and get, you know what I'm saying, get some hair plugs, get a fro, and be Leon Sandcastle or something. Just change his identity. Maybe somebody will give him a shot. Guys, it was awesome today, man. You guys did a great job. You guys get any partner words before we get out of here?
Nope.
Sorry
Have
for
fun.
bringing
Good
up
to see
Trey
you
Lance.
guys. Yeah, good to see you guys.
Sorry
Good to
for
see you
bringing up
guys.
Trey Lance.
Yeah, what did you say?
He
Sorry
said
for bringing up
bringing
Trey
up
Lance. That was unnecessary.
Yeah, it was kind of awkward that all of a sudden we just
My
started
bad.
talking about Trey here.
We're trying to avoid
Like,
that topic.
read the room, Cone. Hey, man, it was good, man. Hey, we'll talk to you guys later. It was good. Peace.